Hello everybody, this is Sam with Digital Music Class. These are supplemental lessons that will not be graded or take the place of classroom assignments. These are merely supplemental lessons for students to continue their learning during school closure. On our last lesson, we chose a sad guitar sample and worked around that sound and made a full track to represent mood of sad. Today, we're taking the same approach of mood, but in more of a complex way. We'll be adding some vocals, and then I'll explain along the way how to appropriately use them. Songs are poems set to music. Usually the lyrics are written first, and the melody is created to accompany the tone of the writing. So if someone is going through a breakup or is mad, they'll write a song about it, whether they're happy or sad, and then they will create the music to match their mood. Just like the idea we discussed, I have selected some samples to use, and within the vocal sample, the lyrics certainly point out the mood of the sadness. So let's dive in. Let's first start by showing you the sample that I chose. Let's go and solo this, and let's go and listen to it.
I don't know what your love is, I still want to try. Girl, you knocked me on the ground when you caught me in your eye. Feel like I'm falling for you, so I'm...
Yeah, a very strong love message, as you can tell. It's very emotional. I don't think I can pick up any other words besides, the emotional and the love. Oh, so I've chosen a few other ones to match the vocals, and let's go and check it out. Oh, let's go ahead and set these complex modes to Complex Pro. Kind of almost sounds similar, but not quite. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe let's go ahead and mess with these samples. Either let's go and try turning down the vocals and then mesh the pitch. You would do that with the transposition knob here, and it basically modulates the pitch.
I don't know what your love is, I still want to try. Girl, you knocked me on the ground when you caught me in your...
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely matches up. That's a -2 is perfectly pitched. Sometimes if you don't want to actually change the pitch of the vocals, you can always change the pitch of the melody. Let's go and try that.
I don't know what your love is, I still want to try. Girl, you knocked me on the ground.
Alright, that sounds really good. I think I might just go with this one. Let's go and try this. Okay, so I really enjoy the sound of the guitar a whole bunch, but because we have transpositioned it up to 2 plus 2, we need some sort of like a lower type of element. So let's go ahead and check out what this sounds like. I'm gonna duplicate the guitar track here, and I'm gonna transpose this down to an octave. So from +2, an octave down will be -10, because +2, so 2 minus -12 will be -10. So that's what the transposition number would be. Let's check it out. Pretty low, just like how it was originally, but let's go ahead and stack this on top and let's hear what they sound like now. This definitely holds more of like a higher value. So because I want this one to, let's go ahead and label these high guitar and low guitar. Low guitar, there we go. Now I'm going to lower the volume of this, and let's listen to it together. I definitely don't want this part to just fade out like this. In fact, it seems like there's like a cycle of like this pattern happening. So what I'm going to do here is take this sample, and why don't we just go and loop this one and see what that sounds like together. So I'm going to loop this and duplicate. Oh yeah, definitely. Let's go ahead and duplicate that again. Maybe like 155? Yeah, I think that's pretty decent. Let's go ahead and just base around that idea. Alright, now let's go ahead and add some samples here. Let's go ahead and add some drums. I like this clap. Let's go ahead and use this. It's actually, it says snare, but it's kind of like a clap and a snare together, actually. Alright. Alright, now I'm just going to go ahead and use these kick and snares, and I'm going to go ahead and make some grooves out of it. Let's try that. You know, something's a little off, and I think it's the guitar sample here. Let's go ahead and adjust that. Sometimes, you know, when you know for a fact that you're on beat and it still sounds a little bit off, chances are other elements of within your song that's a little bit off. In this instance, it's obviously these guitars. So I'm gonna just fix one at a time. So the high end. So let's go ahead and turn on the metronome. Yeah, that note seems like it's out of place. That's nudged back then. Go ahead and warp this. Make sure that you're creating each warp marker on its own, otherwise the whole entire thing will be moved. So let's go and do that. All right, that seems great. So I'm just gonna duplicate these, and in fact, I'm gonna grab these 3 samples here, copy them, and paste them down here. And as you know, this is the low guitar, so we're just going to take these samples, hit this, and hold on to shift and down arrow for an octave lower. Now, all right, now let's see if that's a little bit more on time now. All right, now let's go ahead and turn these down a little bit more, because I think it's getting buried within, I think the vocals are just getting lost here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add some more variation to this just drum pattern, because it's just getting stale and it gets a little bit boring. Alright, so if I were to make this into like a standard radio song, I don't think this is long enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Take this. I think that these 2 parts can be a little bit stretched out. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this and actually duplicate these. And before I do so, make sure to go in here and then just kind of nudge those and then make some fades. Alright. And I think at the end of this, so it just kind of cuts off. Maybe you can just extend it a little bit. Alright, now that works definitely way better. Okay, now let's listen to everything and let's check out what the movement actually looks like now. Alright, sounds really good so far. You know, melodic wise, I think it still sounds a little bit empty, but let's go ahead and finish the drums first. I'm gonna add some hi-hats. And the point is for me to progressively build this drums. So let's go ahead and alright, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and leave this as is. Maybe we can come back to it later and add some more, but I just want to move on ahead and add more content just for you guys to not get bored. So I'm gonna just add some bass here, as I always do. Let's go with the hip-hop bass, because, you know, that's the easiest to use. Let's go ahead and add it. Cool. I'm gonna make a pattern here, and you guys can sometimes, you know, use the sample key arrangement it gives you, but in my case, I'm not so lucky and I don't have those infos available. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to figure out this key with my ears here. Maybe octave lower. Let's see what it sounds like octave lower. A little bit maybe. That's definitely really good right there. Okay, so I made like a baseline progression here. Let's go ahead and hear it in contrast. Alright, and then now let's add some other elements that kind of adds on top of the melody. Alright, so this sounds pretty good. I'm going to now draw in some notes here. And let's add some like delay to it, and just so it can be more artistic. That sounds pretty good. So it's not like so apparent, you know, like everybody knows piano, but you don't want that to be sticking out compared to the vocals. So now let's hear it again. All right, so that sounds really good so far. Let me think of what we can add here. These sound good. Oh, okay. So now let's go ahead and so with these vocals, what we can do to make it more interesting is just like how we did the guitars here, we can just take the approach, do the same approach here, which is to take the vocals. Let's go and rename these vocals to, excuse me. So let's go ahead and pitch this octave lower to see what that sounds like.
Don't know what your love is, I still wanna try. Girl, you knock me on.
Oh, and then if you mess with the formants as you're doing these complex modes, choose Pro, and then maybe like get rid of the formants a little bit.
Don't know what your love is, I still wanna try. Girl, you knock me on the ground.
Definitely changes a whole bunch. Let's go ahead and check this. What this is like.
Don't know what your love is, I still wanna try.
You know, you don't want this always to happen, and I just kind of want to like make it more interesting as the vocals repeat. So I just want to put on like the seconds. Let's go ahead and see what that sounds like.
Falling head first when I dive. I feel so alone without you in my life. I don't know if I can survive. Leaving in the morning every time you stay the night.
Right, that sounds really good so far. I don't think it really needs that much right now, but what we can do now is make it into more of a song now. We're going to take this full thing here and let's go ahead and select all. And I just wanna maybe like let's make it 17 to make it a little bit more drastic. And we're going to use the guitars. Let's go ahead and group these together. Guitars to take the lead. So I'm just going to copy this real quick and then just paste it over. Whoops, the low guitar was really loud. So just like that, but let's go ahead and you know what, why don't we just go ahead and auto filter it in and just make it nice and easy. And then let's go ahead and make it into an automation. You know, as much as we want to give out more of the details, I feel like because there's so much of repetition of like repeating happening, we want to make this a little bit more drastically different. So as we said, add an autofilter. Maybe we can just take this part. Yeah, let's just do this. Alright, that's pretty good. Just giving out minor details and just basically building it up, you know. And let's go ahead and create an automation for the reverb. Right click and hit show automation in new lane. And let's go ahead and just take this down, you know. Yeah, sounds great. That sounds really, really good as an intro. Maybe we can add some like, you know, some crash, like reverse crash cymbal to just kind of ease it in. It just won't be too crazy. Maybe just a simple notification letting the audience know that the song is basically about to start. Make sure that this, when you're stretching things out, when you try to enlarge it, you see how there's like a little mark right there. That means the sample is actually cutting off. So what you want to do is double click on the sample, get inside the sample, and go over here where the numbers are, and at the end of the sample, make sure to enlarge the sample before you do the stretch. So let's go ahead and do this. I think the end of this crash cymbal is actually a little bit harsh, so I'm just going to cut it off a little bit, and let's just scoot it back. Yeah, now let's hear what that sounds like. Alright, right, so that sounds good so far. Now I'm going to mix these tracks down and make it a little bit more appropriate for the whole entire track.
I don't know what you love.
First, I want to go ahead and let's work on these vocals. I want to compress the vocals first. Let's go ahead and use the glue compressor. Oh, whoops, that's wrong.
I don't know what you.
And then basically, you know, these samples seem a little bit quiet, and I want to turn them on, turn them up a little bit. So you want to highlight all these tracks together. These aren't quite always a necessary way to use it, but sometimes this is okay too. You want to bring the tracks up a little bit. Sometimes this does enlarge a little bit more of the details that are kind of like airy noise, so be aware. But just for now, just for the, you know, lesson purpose, I'm just going to do this. This should bring up the volumes up a little bit more. So let's go ahead and check it out.
I don't know what your love is. I still want to try. Girl, you knock me on the ground.
All right, so because I'm bringing down the threshold, I'm losing the gain reduction a little bit, so I want to put up the makeup.
I don't know what.
And then this basically makes up whatever is lost.
I don't know what your love is.
Sounds good, and I want to EQ that out. And how you would want to do this is, as I always do, bring the cutoff. As for this instance, it's mostly mid and high that are just lively. So we're going to take this filter and then basically work your way back in and see where the sweet spot is for the vocals to be present.
I don't know what your love is.
So what I'm doing here is, as I dipped up, there were some ringing noises within his voice, and I wanted to eliminate those types of phasing going on. So I'm just going to go ahead and dip it a little bit and get rid of like this over dramatic volume that happens within this frequency range of 284 hertz.
I don't know what your love.
So I think this is pretty tamed here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a limiter on. I would normally add more details, but to be honest, for this instance right now, I'm just going to keep it very simple and easy for you guys to understand.
I don't know what your love is. I still want to try. Girl, you knock me on the ground.
And you just want to basically move it up so that like the gain reduction is still actually happening.
I feel like I'm falling for you, so I'm never switching.
As you can tell, everything's really nice and compressed and sounds really, really good through the mix. So let's go ahead and do that with the lower one. I just copied the first chain, and then now we're just going to mix accordingly.
I don't know what you love.
As you can tell, it's loud and clear. Let's go and turn that down.
I don't know what you love.
Because there's high-end vocals happening and I just want the low end to be present, I'm just going to shelf this down a little bit. So now let's go ahead and put that into context together.
Got me in a lie. I don't know what your love is. I still want to try. Girl, you knock me.
Alright, let's go ahead and work on the guitars now. Let's go ahead and start with the glue compressor. Turn it up a little bit more. And then let's EQ this a little bit. Use the limiter. Make sure so the sound doesn't go overboard. As you can tell, it's really loud, so I'm going to turn it down. And because I know that most of things are already tamed, I'm going to mix it in with and see how the mix comes through.
I don't know what your love is. I still want to try. Girl, you knock me on the.
Sounds pretty good. And let's go ahead and do the low guitar. All right. And just like how we did the vocals, just a similar way, because this is a lower guitar and there's a higher guitar in the presence of the mix. You just want to make sure that no high end conflicts with the higher guitar. That sounds pretty good. Alright, now let's listen to it together.
I don't know what your love is. I still.
Let's go ahead and put a glue compressor on there. You don't always have to compress sounds, but in this instance, for me, I think it's better right now. Around here, there's a whole lot of ringing noises. That's not necessary, and all the notes are up here, so I'm just going to keep it here. And then now I'm going to add a limiter. And now let's turn it down drastically. Let's see how it is with the rest of the melodies. Perfect. Now let's add some delay. I feel so alone without you in my life. sounds great. Now let's work on the bass. Go ahead and put the EQ in there. Let's like saturate this a little bit and just have the high end come out a little more. Soft sound is pretty good. And at the same time, you don't want too much high end. All right, so now everything sounds pretty tamed. Let's listen back to what it sounds like so far. Now I'm just gonna add some more, just a teeny bit more effects. Let's go ahead and add some chorus, and let's experiment with what that sounds like.
I don't know what your love is, it's doing.
Along with the sound effect.
I don't know what your love is, it's doing.
All right, so that sounds good. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with like the melodies. Let's use some flanger. Let's see what that sounds like. All right, let's automate that as well from here. Everything else. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and do the piano as well. Let's. Maybe some phaser. Just have this on as always because this sound is kind of fighting with the vocals, but this can exist around like the back of the vocals. All right, I think we're near completion here. Let's go ahead. Oh, here we go. Let's go ahead and figure out these. I'm gonna quickly do the drums here. Let's go ahead and EQ this first. Compressor. And I want this to thump a little bit, so I'm going to give it a saturator. Not too much because we don't want it distorting it too much. Alright, that's good. And then now let's go ahead and end it with a limiter. Alright, now I'm going to copy this to the snare because it's kind of like the similar type here. Maybe drastically different. Alright, EQ. And then to compressor. Wonderful. That seems pretty good. And now let's take this to the hi-hat. Hi-hat shouldn't be too crazy. That saturation is good there. Maybe less compression there. Alright, and then we're going to take this. It should be the relatively same on this one. Alright, now let's listen to the drums back. Okay, they all sound uniformed. Let's listen to it with the rest of the tracks. A little bit quieter, so let's turn it back up. Alright, okay, so now that we have all these tracks aligned and stuff, seems like what it needs now is some mixdown within the volume, and we can easily do that on the session view. Let's go ahead and do this, and then we're gonna go ahead and make the tracks a little bit smaller and shorter. This drum sounds like a little bit loud. The guitars sound a little bit too loud, so I'm gonna take both of those and then turn it down. Oh, actually, you know what? There's a better way to do this. Why don't we go ahead and mute everything? That's the group, and these don't need to be muted because they're within the group. Turn those down, and I'm gonna mix down the drums first. And then now let's go ahead and start unmuting everything else. Let's listen to it back with the bass. Now let's bring back the guitar. And then the vocals. And then now what I want to do is I want to sidechain this melody a little bit. So let's go ahead and put in the compressor and hit sidechain. And let's go ahead and go with the kicks. Have the signal come down, and I like this mode a little bit better because it kind of shows like a visual aspect of what's happening. You don't want too much to happen, but still a little bit. I'm going to copy and paste it, and now we're going to use the snare. Okay, so now we did that to melodies. Some other things would be bass because we want that to be ducking every time the drums are happening. I kind of feel like that clap is a little dry, so let's go and add some reverb.
Survive, leaving in the morning every time you stay the night. stay the night. Don't know what your love is, I still wanna try.
Alright, so we have a lot of things going on here. So what I want to do is make some minor adjustments here. Show these automations.
Don't know what your love is, I still wanna try. Will you knock me on the ground? Time you stop.
Perfect. So that basically sums up the track. So now I'm just gonna play it back all the way through, and this should be the end of it.
Girl, you knock me on the ground when you caught me in your eye. Feel like I'm falling for you, so I'm never switching sides. And if I said I don't want you, then you caught me in a lie. I don't know what your love is, I still want to try. Girl, you knock me on the ground when you caught me in your eye. Feel like I'm falling for you, so I'm never switching sides. And if I said I don't want you, then you caught me in a lie. Falling head first when I dive. I feel so alone without you in my life. I don't know if I can survive. Leaving in the morning every time you stay the night. Falling head first when I dive. I feel so alone without you in my life. I don't know if I can survive. Leaving in the morning every time you stay the night.
Awesome. So that's creating a whole another sad track with the vocals from scratch. And now you know how to do it, and now you've learned how things work and how you can create around just within one element. So thank you guys for watching, and on the next one, we're going to be doing some more exciting things. Up till then, see you next time.